Don't forget to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for our latest gripping stories. I never thought at 64 I'd be caught in a web like this. Life was supposed to be predictable by now. Mornings tending my garden in upstate New York, afternoons lost in a book's quiet embrace, evenings beside my husband James reliving our decades together. But one conversation whispered in the shadows turned my world upside down, making me question everything I thought I knew. It started at a glitzy company gala James had dragged me to. He'd been with the firm for over 30 years, climbing the ranks with dogged loyalty. His boss, Charles Wentworth, was a man of quiet power, tall, polished in his late 60s with a calm confidence that seemed effortless. I'd only ever exchanged polite small talk with him at past events. The gala was held at a swanky Manhattan hotel, chandeliers casting a warm glow over elegantly dressed guests. The room buzzed with chatter, clinking glasses, and the soft hum of a live jazz band in the corner. I wasn't keen on these affairs. I preferred the comfort of our cozy home, but James insisted, so I slipped into a simple navy dress and went along. At first, everything felt routine. James was deep in work talk with colleagues while I made small talk with the other wives. Then Charles approached me. "Laura, could I steal a moment?" His voice was low, warm, cutting through the room's din. I hesitated. What could James's boss want with me? But I smiled politely, nodded, and followed as he led me down a side corridor away from the glittering ballroom. The air grew quieter, the party's noise fading behind us. He guided me into a private lounge, a dimly lit room with flickering firelight, leather armchairs, and a tension I could almost taste. My heart beat faster as I sat across from him. The fire's glow danced on his face, sharpening the lines of his jaw. "I hope I haven't pulled you away from anything important," he said, his smile small, almost nervous. "Not at all," I replied, though curiosity burned inside me. "What's on your mind?" He sighed, rubbing his hands together, searching for words. Finally, he spoke. "It's about James." I sat up straighter, my stomach nodding. "Is something wrong?" He hesitated. "Not exactly, but there's something you should know." The weight in his voice hit me before the words did. His expression, serious, intense, made my pulse race. "Laura," he continued, his voice soft but firm, "I've known James a long time. I've watched him build his career, support his team, provide for his family. But through it all, I've noticed something." I swallowed hard. "What?" He leaned forward, his eyes locking onto mine, dark and piercing in the firelight. "He doesn't cherish you the way he should." The words landed like a blow, heavy and sharp, stealing my breath. A wave of defensiveness surged through me. "I don't understand," I stammered. "James is a good husband. He always has been." Charles nodded, but his gaze didn't waver. "I know he is. But tell me, Laura, when was the last time he truly saw you? Not just as his wife, but as the remarkable woman you are." I opened my mouth to answer, but no words came. The room seemed to close and the fire's crackle louder, the air thicker. He pressed on, his voice softer now, almost a whisper. "I've seen how you look at him when he's too busy to notice. I've watched you stand in the shadows at events like this while he's consumed by work. You give so much, Laura. Does he give back?" A lump formed in my throat. I wanted to argue, to tell him he was wrong, but something deep inside stirred a flicker of truth I couldn't ignore. "I'm not trying to overstep," Charles said, leaning back slightly. "But sometimes an outsider sees what those inside can't." I exhaled slowly, my mind reeling. The firelight cast long shadows, and in that moment I felt exposed, raw, as if he'd peeled back a layer of my life I'd kept hidden. Charles studied my face, then offered a faint, knowing smile. Laura, you deserve to be seen." Those words struck a chord I hadn't known existed. For the first time in years, I didn't know how to feel. I sat there frozen, the weight of his gaze like a hand on my heart. His words echoed in my mind, stirring something I wasn't ready to face. You deserve to be seen. Had I really gone so long unnoticed, I wanted to dismiss his words as mere observation, a well-meaning but misguided attempt at kindness. But deep down, I knew he was right. James was a good man, a hard worker, a provider. He was steady, reliable. But in the quiet moments, the ones that mattered, when had he last truly looked at me? Notice the small ways I kept our life warm and whole, the way I folded his shirts just so kept our home filled with his favorite things, stood by him through every career triumph, always in the background. I cleared my throat, pushing down the ache. "Charles, He raised a hand, stopping me. "I didn't mean to upset you, Laura, but I couldn't stand by and say nothing." I sighed. "I appreciate your honesty," I said, my voice softer than I meant. "But James and I have been together for decades. Marriage isn't just about being seen. It's about commitment, stability." Charles nodded, but his eyes stayed fixed on mine, unrelenting, like he could see straight through me. "I know, and I respect that. But have you ever asked yourself what you want?" The question hung between us, heavy, dangerous. What I wanted. I'd spent years focused on James's needs, our marriage's demands, what was expected of me. I hadn't stopped to think about what I wanted. I let out a nervous laugh. "Charles, this is quite a topic for a company gala." He smiled, a glint of warmth in his eyes. "I suppose it is. But something told me I had to say it." Silence fell, broken only by the fire's soft crackle. Then he stood, exhaling. "I should let you get back." I stood too, smoothing my dress with trembling hands. "Yes, James will wonder where I am." Charles nodded, but there was something unreadable in his expression. "Laura, promise me one thing." I tilted my head. "What's that?" "Don't dismiss what I said. Think about it." I hesitated, then nodded slowly. "All right." He gave me a faint smile before stepping aside, gesturing toward the door. As I passed him, I felt the warmth of his presence, the weight of our conversation pressing against my chest like a stone. The gala was still in full swing when I returned. James was where I'd left him, engrossed with colleagues. He didn't notice me at first. I watched him from a distance, his face alive with passion, hands animated as he spoke. It was a side of him I'd always loved, his drive, his fire. But then I thought of Charles's words. Had James ever looked at me like that? When he finally glanced over and saw me, he gave a quick nod before turning back to his conversation. Something inside me shifted like a crack in a dam. Charles had planted a seed, and no matter how I tried to ignore it, I knew it was taking root. The drive home was quiet. James sat beside me, hands tight on the wheel, eyes fixed on the dark road ahead. City lights flickered past, but my mind was elsewhere, tangled in Charles's words, his voice lingering like a song I couldn't shake. "You deserve to be seen." I glanced at James. He looked tired, a faint crease of stress between his brows. We'd been married nearly 40 years, and I knew every detail of his face, the sharp line of his jaw, the squint of his smile, the way his lips tightened when he focused. But when had he last truly seen me? He cleared his throat, breaking the silence. "Did you have fun tonight?" The question caught me off guard. It was what he always asked after events, dinners, gatherings, almost out of duty, not curiosity. I hesitated. It was interesting. He nodded absently. Good. Good. And that was it. The conversation died. I turned to the window, watching New York's lights blur as we headed to our quiet suburban home. When we got home, James did what he always did, hung his coat, dropped his keys on the counter, and retreated to his study for one last email check. I stood in the kitchen staring at the empty space where he'd been. I wasn't angry. Not exactly. James was who he'd always been, devoted to work, set in his ways. He'd given me a good life, a safe one. But Charles's words had stirred something I couldn't suppress. I walked to the bedroom and studied my reflection in the mirror. 64. My chestnut hair was streaked with silver now. Faint lines etched my face, mapping the years I'd lived. But my eyes, they were the same. And in them, I saw something I hadn't noticed in too long. Loneliness. I'd always thought it was just part of aging, the quiet creeping in, the slow slide into routine. But now I wondered, was this it? The next morning, James left for work, kissing my cheek. "I'll be late. Big client meeting." I nodded, offering a faint smile. "All right, be careful." And he was gone. I stood at the door, lingering before stepping inside. Normally, I'd fill the day with chores, gardening, routine. But today, I felt restless. Before I could stop myself, I grabbed my phone and dialed a number I never thought I'd call. Charles answered on the second ring. "Laura." His voice held a hint of surprise. I took a slow breath. "Do you have time for coffee?" A pause, then a softer tone. "I do." An hour later, I sat across from him in a quiet Brooklyn cafe, the air thick with the scent of roasted coffee and fresh pastries. Outside, autumn leaves swirled in the breeze, catching the morning light. Charles watched me with quiet curiosity. "I wasn't sure you'd call." I stirred my coffee, watching the cream spiral into the dark liquid. "I wasn't sure I would either." He nodded, waiting. I exhaled. "I've been thinking about what you said." His expression stayed unreadable. I hesitated, then met his eyes. "You were right." Something flickered in his gaze, something I couldn't name, something that sent a shiver down my spine. "Laura, I didn't mean." I cut him off gently. "I don't regret my life. James and I built something solid, real. But somewhere along the way, I forgot how to want something for myself." Charles leaned forward slightly, and I swallowed hard. "I don't know what happens now." Silence settled between us, broken only by the distant hum of conversation. Finally, he spoke, his voice soft. "I just want you to be happy." I looked at him, really looked at him. This man had no reason to step into my life, no reason to say what he did, except that he saw something in me I hadn't seen myself. And suddenly, I knew I had a choice to make. I sat there staring at Charles across the small coffee table, my hands clutching the warm ceramic mug. "I just want you to be happy." His words hung heavy, gentle, but piercing, like a truth I'd dodged for too long. For years, I'd told myself contentment was enough, that safety, stability, loyalty were the pillars of a good life. And they were. But Charles had uncovered something else in me, a hunger I didn't know I'd buried, a need to be felt. I took a slow breath, the weight of my thoughts pressing down. "Charles, I don't know what to do with all this." His eyes softened. "You don't have to do anything, Laura. Just think about what makes you happy." "When was the last time you did something just for yourself?" I opened my mouth but stopped. When was the last time I'd spent decades ensuring James was supported, his career, his goals, his world intact? I'd built a life of order, of duty. But what about me? I sipped my coffee, its warm, bitter bite grounding me for a moment. "I don't know who I am without him." I admitted the words, surprising even me. Charles smiled faintly, understanding. "Then maybe it's time to find out." I gave a hoarse, nervous laugh. "That sounds terrifying." "Maybe," he said, But exciting too, isn't it? I didn't answer. I couldn't, because deep down I knew he was right. We sat in silence, the world outside moving on, cars passing, people laughing, the wind rustling golden leaves. Life didn't pause for reflection. But maybe for the first time I needed it to. Finally, I set my cup down and met his eyes. I don't know what comes next, Charles, but I know I need to start living again. A smile curved his lips. That's all I wanted you to see. That night when James came home, I was waiting at the kitchen table. He barely glanced at me, setting his briefcase down and loosening his tie. Long day, he muttered. I'm beat. I watched him for a moment, the man I'd built a life with, loved for decades. Yet as he moved through the house, there was a chasm between us, one I hadn't realized had grown over the years. I took a deep breath. James, can we talk? He paused, finally looking at me. About what I swallowed. About us. His brows furrowed slightly. What about us? I hesitated, then let the words I'd held back since last night spill out. I feel invisible, James. I've spent years being the wife who supports you, who keeps everything together, who makes sure our life runs smoothly. And I know you love me. But somewhere along the way, I stopped being seen. He blinked, caught off guard. Laura, where's this coming from? I shook my head. It's been there for years. I just never let myself say it out loud. He sat across from me, rubbing his face. I didn't know you felt this way. I studied him closely. Did you ever wonder? He fell silent. And in that moment, I realized something painful. James wasn't a bad husband. He wasn't cruel or intentionally careless. He was like me, assuming marriage meant settling into routine, that comfort was enough, that we didn't need to check in like we used to. But that wasn't living. That wasn't love. Not anymore. What are you saying? He asked, finally, his voice cautious. I took a deep breath. I need to start living for myself again. His face paled slightly. Are you leaving me? I hesitated, then shook my head. I don't know what the future holds, James. But I know I can't keep going like this. And if we want this marriage to survive, something has to change. He looked at me for a long moment, and for the first time in years I saw something flicker in his eyes. Realization. Maybe we had a chance to fix this. Maybe we didn't. But for the first time in decades, I was ready to find out.